Welcome to Cinephile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemaphilepod.com. In his first starring role, Bernie Casey portrays Tuck, an irreverent young man living aimlessly in South Central Los Angeles, where a black militant group is organizing. At first, he's uninterested in the group's social politics. Tuck becomes intrigued by one of the outspoken recruiters and becomes part of the group. All of this leads to a series of events that end up with Tuck's loyalty being questioned, and much ensues from there. The film is called Black Chariot, and it was directed by Robert Goodwin Sr. We're joined today by Robert Goodwin Jr. to talk about The Black Chariot, which recently was given a 4K restoration. It's a film that has been acknowledged and recognized for the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. Robert Goodwin Jr., welcome to Cinephile.
Thank you for having me.
Well, congratulations on this, and I want to go back to the beginning, sort of what was the origin story for Black Chariot? Your father was writer, director, producer, and editor on this film, so this certainly was a labor of love. What inspired him to make Black Chariot?
Well, he had been a television writer for a number of years. You know, he had broken into the industry as a television writer. He had written 3 scripts for Bonanza, and his career pretty much took off, and he was writing for a lot of shows during that time. He was what they called a freelance writer, so he wasn't writing for one specific show. He would go out and write, but he had an experience prior to this where he had written and produced a movie for television called The Upper Chamber. He had some sort of background and experience, and at the time, as far as Black Chariot was concerned, he wanted to write something that he had complete autonomous control for, and then also something that he felt was relevant, and also something that would be a vehicle for Bernie and Barbara O. Jones. I mean, my father was a magnet for finding and having relationships with people that he felt was talented, that either were not discovered, underappreciated, or even sometimes had been ignored or had issues. The Upper Chamber, he had Lou Ayres, who starred in the Upper Chambers, and Lou Ayres had got caught up in the McCarthy era. He was a well-known actor, and so that's kind of how the Black Chariot was developed, and it was a troubled time during that period. There was a lot going on in society and just in the world, and especially in California. So hopefully that kind of gives you an answer.
Yeah.
If there's more you want to dig into, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely, I do, but I want to put a year on it. Was it 1970?
71.
Quite a time in American filmmaking history in terms of people that were coming to the forefront of the industry. It was that period of time when there was a real renaissance of American directors across the spectrum of people who were stepping forward to make the kind of films that were personal. These were not studio films. These were passion projects, and this certainly feels like one of those. And I do want to dive more into kind of the backstory. But before I get too much further, Bernie Casey, who has quite an interesting background, how he came to be a part of this film, but certainly he started out as a well-known athlete. He played professional football. Was this his first lead role in a film?
This was his first starring role. He had been in other films or other projects, but this was the first leading or starring role that he had in his career at this time.
You also mentioned Barbara O., who is a very powerful presence. I sense from what I see of her in Black Chariot that she was a force of nature on camera and off camera. That's just sort of a particular vibe. I seem to remember, I'm not going to say I remember her in detail, but I seem to remember her in a lot of other projects. Let's talk a little bit about her.
She was in Daughters of the Dust. She was
That's
also in, forget the name of the movie, but she it was a movie with Muhammad Ali. It might have been about him, but she was in
the
a movie with,
greatest. Was that the great?
yeah,
I'll bet it was the
I
greatest.
know
Yeah,
she was in a movie with him,
yeah.
and she was in some other projects. Her career, as far as I was concerned, never materialized as well as it could have or should have. A lot of people, of course, remember Pam Grier and Tamara Dobson as far as Black women that were leading the charge of strong Black women or women that were leading. But I would match Barbara O with any of them. I mean, she was unbelievable. She was the real deal. She had an aura and a presence about her that you saw immediately when you came in contact with her. And she came out of the UCLA, Black Rebellion and all that. I had a sister that was also going to UCLA at the time and was in theater, and her Julie Dash, all of them came out of UCLA. So that's a little, snippet of Barbara O.
I'll say her whole name, Barbara O. Jones.
Jones.
Yeah, and also, exactly. And I'm so glad you brought that up, the UCLA, this particular moment in time where there were other filmmakers who were finding their voice. I think of Charles Burnett and The Killer of Sheep as a great example of he was also out of UCLA.
Mhm.
So this was a real a moment in filmmaking for Los Angeles and for the African American community. I think is that a fair way to put it?
Yes, and let me fit this in is that Melvin Van Peebles' Sweet,
Yes.
Sweet Badass Song came out in March of 71, and my father's movie premiered in July of 71. As far as I know, they never met each other, never had any relationship, but they used both of those movies, they used many of the same technicians and people on the production for both of those films. And the Oscars in 2022 acknowledged the two of them. They had an exhibit. In fact, they showed both of their movies at the same time, and and it's been said that they both were the architects or the godfathers of what would eventually become called blaxploitation.
Having the honor of interviewing Julie Dash for Daughters of the Dust many years ago now, but what a terrific film! What a
Oh,
really wonderful film that is, and
yeah.
I'm going to ask you to put on kind of your sociologic hat here for a second, because we all remember the uprising in South Central in the mid 60s after years and years of deprivation and police rioting, basically, during in that community. I'm curious as to whether or not that had the impact on the artistic side of the community, the filmmaking part. Is that where was that a catalyst for some of the things we see, especially in something like Black Chariot?
I would say yes, because especially with California, because I mean, obviously there were a lot of things happening throughout the country, but of course, California and Southern California and even Northern California, we had the Black Panthers, and
Yeah,
we had,
yeah.
the US organization. We had two Black Panthers that were killed on UCLA's campus, Jerome Huggins and Prentice Bunchy Carter. And then the same year in Chicago, where Fred Hampton,
The union organizer.
he was a Black Panther also that was
Yeah,
shot and killed in his
in his
bed.
bed.
Yeah,
Yeah, an important part of this story. And that let's talk about Black Chariot, and we can talk about the restoration of it, how that came about, what the recognition it has gotten, and it's receiving in its re-release, by the way, through Kino Lorber, a wonderful platform for people who are interested in all kinds of original filmmaking, independent filmmaking, documentaries, etc. It's really truly one of the great distributors platforms for real artistry in the world of film. Or we can talk about the story itself. What sort of the arc of Tuck's story in this film and how that bears on what we've been talking about. Either one of those. You
yeah.
feel free to talk about that.
My father was, first of all, a storyteller, and I think he wanted to do something different and something out of the box, or even with the film being on videotape and on film that Frank Zappa, who did 200 Motels, was the first to do videotape and film, which was in December. But my father's predates, by a few months. But anyway, we're just splitting hairs. But my father was really trying to really, I guess, engage the viewer, and that you're going back and forth into the past and the present in regards to Tuck and the circumstances that he found himself in, and what the arc was that brought him to where he ended at, at the end of the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
And how he, that obviously the group wanted revenge, and they felt like they wanted to bring retribution, or to make sure that nothing else happened. And he was, speaking of love and of forgiveness and of fear, and how religion and faith came involved in that. And I don't know if you know that my father had, at 16 had been an ordained minister, and had went to theology school for a year, but then came back and decided to pursue acting and writing, through
Mm-hmm.
through his mother. I don't know if you know anything about his mother.
No,
How
no, I do
important
not.
she was.
Please feel free to
His
tell us more.
mother, his mother is her name was Ruby Berkeley Goodwin, and she was the publicist and secretary first for Ethel Waters, and then she was for Hattie McDaniels, and she worked for Hattie McDaniels from 1936 to 1951. She was not just working for her, but she was a friend. And when Hattie got ill, she was made legal guardian, or took responsibility for her day to day. And then, excuse me, also my grandmother helped write the acceptance speech for Hattie McDaniels when she won the Academy Award. And then she had other things involved in her life. She was the first syndicated columnist for Black Hollywood. She wrote a book called It's Good to Be Black in 53. She was California Mother of the Year. My father and her, like I said, acted and wrote together, and she was really a pivotal factor in his life, and mentoring him, and kind of guiding and just showing him the way, as far as, because he was exposed to a lot of different artists and people in the industry because of her and who she was. But anyway, that's who his mother was. She was pretty much a big deal in her time.
When did your father leave us? How long ago?
He was 55 years old. He died in I believe it was February 13th, 1983. He was 55.
Far too young. Tell you that.
Yeah,
That's
very young, very young.
very,
Yeah, yeah. It was difficult.
I'm sure it was. You are in Black Chariot
Yeah,
as well. Just being on set, watching your father work, being around the people who are part of this project. What did that mean to you? How old were you at the time?
I was 20 going on 21.
How did that impact you as someone being on set, part of your father's project, being around these very talented people?
Watching someone that was very focused, watching someone that was committed to completing the project. Many of the scenes were one shots, maybe one or two shots. I know the scenes that I were all one shots. That the
Mm-hmm.
chase scene was one shot. All the interiors that I was in, or even outside, were one shots as far as I was concerned. I wasn't there watching every single shoot that was going on, but he was, like I said, he was very focused and knew what he wanted, and he got the best out of everybody, and everybody was really committed to the film, and in many of them it was their biggest opportunity at that time. Virtually, I mean, you got Mike Warren, he
Yeah.
was in there, and Richard Elkins, who plays the leader, and in fact he plays in another television show that my father did. And Richard Elkins was a very powerful person within himself. So anyway, it was just watching what was going on and seeing everybody, and there was no major hiccups or major scenes or egos or anything of that nature. Everybody pretty much committed to whatever their their role was or what they were assigned to do.
Well, congratulations on Black Chariot and also for the 4K restoration and for the re-release. As I mentioned earlier, Kino Lorber is putting it out. It's screened already. I forgot exactly where on July 10th in New York. I'm not sure,
New
at the
York.
Anthology Film Archives in New York, I should say. And it is still continuing to roll out across the country for people who are interested.
You had asked earlier about the restoration. What happened was is that the Smithsonian had heard her name was Rhea Combs, who worked there at the time, and she had heard about my father because she was not aware of him or his work or whatever, and she had flown out to see exactly what existed or who he was and this, that, and the other. And she came to my house because most of my father's work was in my garage. I had inherited or wound up getting a lot of the stuff, and she was shocked and couldn't believe it. But anyway, they eventually got my father's film, and they had someone that had donated that they were going, to use money to restore the film. So that's how the film was restored, was through the Smithsonian, because I had the choice of giving my father's work to the Oscars Museum or to the Smithsonian. And I wrestled with it for some time, and I just felt that the Smithsonian was the proper venue or the place that I felt that I should have the work go to, and the family gave me control to do whatever I felt was in the best interest of my father and his legacy.
Robert Goodwin Jr., I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your efforts to bring this film to my attention and to many other people across the country as the film rolls out. Also, going back to the platform of Kino Lorber as a great place to start your own journey to watch Black Chariot. So thank you to you, Robert Goodwin Jr., for your time. Thank you for sharing these stories about your family and your dad's journey as an artist and as a person. So thank you. Thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.